May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Sabah. Ni hao. Namaste. Osaya Anakitawaya. Ohio. I see you. Habarigani. Manut. Jambo, Mimini Kofi, Nina Faraku Katana Nuewe. Aquaba, Etesen. Shabbat Shalom. Bakwatav, Tada Yastel, Yasrael, Kwam Yasel, Shalom Allah, Cham Yahava, Barak Allah, Cham Yahava, Anakofi, Kohelet of Servants of Christ, Mashalam Chi. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for joining me on this rising. We appreciate you. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to continue to go through our series for membership, these 7 F's. Today, we're focusing on foundation. We don't have as much time because it is our Shabbat, or what we treat as our Shabbat. It is Saturday, and it being Saturday, we have to get ready for our podcast, where Minister Nice will give us another word to finish our series up for this month. So we're excited, we're grateful, and appreciative for another opportunity to be able to come before you guys again. Thank you all so much for being on. We really, 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 really appreciate your presence today. I especially do. I need a word today, just as much as you do. And I'm thankful and grateful that you guys would join us today. We appreciate you. Hopefully you're doing well. Got a little something we're trying to put together for the babies, for those who are going to be part of their children, or part of our, or your grandchildren, children, nieces, nephews, etc. For those that are part of our Shabbat Beit Savar, or Shabbat Beit Sefer, or Shabbat School. That'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern New York time on Zoom. So we're excited. We'll be on right now, obviously, 10 a.m. podcast, 11 a.m. Shabbat School for the children, 4 p.m. 4 p.m. We got to double check the time, 4 or 5 p.m. For ministerial staff and those that are going to be doing the work for September 29th through October 6th, where we meet together for the Feast of Tabernacles. And then, of course, 7 p.m. Eastern New York time. For those of you that are able to, we have the sisters have their women meeting today, led by the Honorable Maya. And hopefully you guys will be able to join there. And then, of course, those of us who can support Minister Taman tonight, feel free to go ahead and do so. But we're thankful and grateful to have everybody on with us. And prayerfully, everything loads up while we're doing this. If everything works correctly, we'll have a video loading simultaneously, so that when the children get to school, they have a little present as far as a video for them. So we're excited about that. So if your children haven't been partaking as of yet, prayerfully they'll start partaking. And we hope that you enjoy what we've been able to produce. Thank you for those that have helped us with our travel in many different ways, including allowing us to be able to stay at some awesome places. And thank you guys so much for your help, as always, behind the scenes, what we're doing for the diaspora. All right. So once again, we give our praise and honor to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. We give our praise and honor to him, for my wife, the Honorable Maya. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, our website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Now that we have all that said and introduced to you, if this is your first time with us, by the way, we're on every rising at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We're on every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Weekday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, except for Wednesdays. Wednesdays is my day off, but we still have somebody that comes with a word, both in the rising and in the evening. So if this is some stuff that you like, that you hear, that you want to participate in, that you want to continue to grow with us on, we are excited to continue to go down this road together as a diaspora. And we thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. Let's say everybody on YouTube, everybody on TikTok, everybody to watch this later on. We appreciate you. Hello, how you doing, Sister Joy? How you doing, Stephen? How you doing, Minister Tamara? I believe us on here. Sister Elions, Sister Monica, Sister Sherry, Sister Nadine, Ezra. How you doing? Brightborn, Golden Child, thanks for being part of the community. Romac, everybody, Lottie Dottie, everybody, come on in. Sister Renee, user 934. 534, etc. Thank you for being on. Sister Deborah, Power Driver, thanks for being part of the community. Jelani, everybody, thank you so much. Today we're continuing these 7 F's, talking about membership. People were saying they want to be members of this, so those who will take on membership, we're continuing to talk about this stuff. It's on the website. I did not update the mobile website, so the 7 F's don't show up there yet. If you're using a mobile device, however, if you're using a laptop, MacBook, computer, Mac, etc., you will be able to go on the website and see the 7 F's on there right now. Praise y'all. Alrighty, how you doing, Sister Nadine? How you doing, Vitaly? So we're on the 5th F today, right? And if we go through these 7 F's so far, we've gone through the first F, which was faith. That was on Monday. On Tuesday, we went through over family. On Wednesday, hold on. On Thursday, we went over food. Yesterday, we went over fortune. And now today, we're talking about the 5th F, which is foundation. Foundation, right? We want to be foundational in everything that we do. So we're going to read what we mean by foundation, and then we're going to go a little deeper into it. I see you, Sister Elion, switching over. How you doing, Sister Sage? How you doing, Brother Yee? Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Peace be upon everybody. Barak Allah Sham Yechava. Bakwatav. Tidah Yashdan. Thank you so much. Or, as some would say, Thawadah. Thanks for being on. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? Hopefully you guys made it safely. Alrighty. Foundation. This is what we have directly from the website, directly from what we're putting out there, directly what you guys will receive when we send this out to everybody. Foundation. It says, this is the most important part of a physical building. A house can look great. The windows can be amazing. The colors and patterns can be out of this world. Your curtains can match the couch, but if your foundation is cracked, your house cannot stand. How you doing, Molly? The same goes for that which we shall build. All of our principles shall be formed upon every sound foundation. If our laws are not governed by principles that run deep, we cannot expect our family to stand. Remember, the higher the building, the deeper the hole, the stronger the foundation. I'll say it one more again. Amen. Grateful that y'all made it back. Foundation. Once again, this is the most important part of a physical building. A house can look great. The windows can be amazing. The colors and patterns can be out of this world. Your curtains can match the couch. But if your foundation is cracked, your house cannot stand. The same goes for that which we shall build. All of our principles shall be formed upon very sound foundation. If our laws are not governed by principles that run deep, we cannot expect our family to stand. Remember, the higher the building, the deeper the hole, the stronger the foundation. I'm going to say it one more again, just in case, so everybody's on the same page of what we're talking about when we want to be foundational. One more again. This is the most important part of a physical building. A house can look great. The windows can be amazing. The colors and patterns can be out of this world. Your curtains can match the couch. But if your foundation is cracked, your house cannot stand. The same goes for that which we shall build. All of our principles shall be formed upon very sound foundation. If our laws are not governed by principles that run deep, we cannot expect our family to stand. Remember, the higher the building, the higher the house, the higher the family, the deeper the hole, the stronger the foundation. So we believe in being foundational. How you doing, Minister Shante? How you doing, Charles? We believe in being what? Foundational. Matthew chapter 7. We talked about it a lot recently. Matthew chapter 7, towards the end of it, it says what? This is the Sermon on the Mount, by the way. He ends the sermon, Yahashua, right? The Messiah is speaking. How you doing, Yahshua? And he ends by saying something very profound. He says that a foolish man built his house upon the sand, right? Sand, by the way, meaning what? What does the word sand even come from as far as basic etymology? The word sand literally are 2 words put together. It's a compound word. It's sea and land. That's where you get the S from, the sea, and you get the A-N-D from land. It is sand, sea land, meaning that it's halfway in between the sea and it's halfway between the land. So nobody is going to be able to build a house. You can build a boat. Maybe you can build a pier, we put some stuff on it, right? But nobody's really going to be able to build a house, right, upon the water. So we know that the house really cannot rest upon the water. So when he says a foolish man builds his house upon the sand, he's not saying that a foolish man is building his house upon water. He's saying that you've built your house in between the water that is current and flows, and that, yes, it helps with life, but it's not stable, right? Matter of fact, if we're thinking about the ocean, I know he mentioned the word sea, but if we're thinking about the ocean, you even have to think that that water is not even necessarily drinkable, and it has a lot of stuff in it, as the sea has a lot of stuff in it that can live in the sea, but you can't, can swim in the sea like you cannot, can breathe in the water like you cannot. And so it'd be foolish to build your house upon something that is in between the two, right? Because you're getting close to sea life for no reason. There's natural progression of things that happen every day, right? When the moon comes around, the water raises up, right? When the moon comes around, water raises up. When the water raises up, you have the tide comes in, the tide comes in. Anything that you built upon the sand pretty much is not going to last. When you go to the beach, they don't build the hotels on the sand. The hotel is on land close enough to the sand. You might be able to come out into the sand, but when you come in the first part of the hotel, you come in on what? You come in on land. You come in on a hard surface. How you doing, Sister Beverly? Everybody who's coming in, Just Jay, Benu, Apparel, thanks for being part of the community, right? If I missed your name, charge to my head, not to my heart. Alec John Scott, thank you for being on. Appreciate you. How you doing, Tanya? So a fool builds their house in a place to where you don't really know what's going to happen. And it says, and when the storm came, when the winds and the waves came, when the vicissitudes of life come in vigorously at times. How you doing, Tamaya? It said, and how you doing, Sister Betty, if I didn't say so already as well, and Sister Shima? When the wind and the waves and all this stuff comes in that normally is there, when all this wildlife that appears in the sand, that might even live in the sand during the day, but doesn't show up till the water shows up, or some of these animals that come into the land when it's dark, like even there's killer whales and dolphins who have learned to beach themselves and come back into the water, and they come hunting. There's all this stuff that comes in to the sand when it gets dark, because even though we are supposed to live in the light, we do deal with the dark. How you doing, Sister Kristen? Even though we do live in we're supposed to be the light and be in the light, there still is dark times that come. How you doing, Mr. Tracy B? Right? And so as things are coming in to the land, or things are coming in to the sand rather, right? In between the land and the sea, it doesn't quite make its way to the land. And a foolish person will build a foundation that's what? Upon the in between. And this is where many people live. We miss this. See, we just go the sand and the land, the sand and the rock. A foolish man puts his house on the sand. A wise man builds his house on the rock. But those who are foolish, how you doing, Jeff? Those who are foolish actually build their house on the what? In the sand, halfway in between the sea, halfway in between the land. You're not quite in the depths that'll mess you up, but at the same time, you don't want to come on something that's solid and be held accountable, right? And if we're gonna talk about membership or remembership or coming back into who we're supposed to be in Yah, in the kingdom of Yahweh, right? If we're gonna be in the kingdom of Elohim, right, then we need to recognize that it's time for us to stop being in between. Foundation is important. Are the things that you say are foundational in your life, are they in between? Are they fastly in one place or the other? See, this is when we get into a place in Revelation chapter 3, towards the end, the assembly of Laodicea that's talked about there, to where it says that there's a lot of people who are hokey pokey. You got your right foot in one day and your right foot out, and we can't really see where you are. He said, I wish I knew if you were hot or if you were cold. See, if I knew you were hot or cold, that'd be one thing, but you're lukewarm, and because of that, I have to vomit you, eject you from the body, from the membership, from the kingdom. I can't really be around people who won't actually stand for something. Amen. How you doing, Sister Judith? How you doing, Sister Mignon? How you doing, Money Green? See, it'd be one thing if all these people who are talking about this Israelite movement are talking about their church they go to, or talking about their mosque, or talking about their temple, or talking about, wherever they decide to worship, whoever they decide, or even when you're talking about the church of God or whatever. It'd be one thing if you stood on your principles, but you don't even realize that your principles are not sound, because they allow you allow yourself to go whichever way, right? It'd be one thing if you would just admit that, hey, you know, you're part of a United States corporation, 28 USC 300215A. United States is a corporation, 28 USC 300215B. The United States is a board, 28 USC 300215C. The United States is an instrument that can be traded. It'd be one thing if you would just be honest and say, hey, you know what? I'm part of a corporation that tries to get people to be about their straw man and not who they really are. And I'm trying to do all these things. I'm participating in the beast, and I'm okay with that. I know that Washington, D.C. literally is talking about George Washington, Father God, the obelisk, Osiris, modern Osiris, Columbia on top of the Congress building and posted all over the place. Nothing can be built higher than her, ISIS, and everything coming out of her is supposed to be a modern day Heru. All right. It'd be one thing if you would admit that, but because you're so wishy-washy and you got to be a Republican or you got to be a Democrat or you got to say why all lives matter or Black lives matter, or because you've got to make sure that you are a New Yorker and not a citizen of a nation, of a real nation, because you register your children with the government and with the state rather than ensure that they remain free. But at the same time, you love to come to your services and you love to preach and you love to teach and you love to praise and you love to tell everybody that, yes, I am a child, and you say a child of God, not even knowing who your God is in the United States. That's why your money, it says, in God we trust, but you don't even try to figure out who that is. Who is the mother, father God? Who gives birth to the Congress member? Who gives birth to this, that, etc. Right? Because of that, you have built your house upon the sand. You were wishy-washy. You were asking for freedom, and at the same time, you were falling. Sure. My wife is not on with us at this moment. She gave us the quote yesterday. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but Thomas Jefferson has a quote. Even though Thomas Jefferson was somebody who owned slaves, but he still told you the truth. Thomas Jefferson said, those that wish to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization are asking for something that never was and never will be. I'm off a little bit on the quote, but I'm pretty close to it. Once again, Thomas Jefferson said something along the lines of this. He said, those that wish to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization ask for something that never was and never will be. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? How you doing, DB? Shabbat shalom to everybody coming on. Once again, those that wish to be what? Ignorant and free ask for something that never was and never will be. How you doing, user 96958? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Wayne? Thanks for being part of the community. Appreciate you. Right? If you build your house on the sand, that's halfway in between the sea and halfway in between the land, right? And a lot of people are halfway in between. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. And what was that? Was that Sadie? I think I might have missed who that was. Thank you so much. Right? How you doing, Sister Tracy? Many people are living their lives in the in between, halfway in between this, halfway in between that, halfway in between this, halfway in between that. I love this. I don't love that. I love this, I don't love that, but you have cognitive dissonance. How can you say that you represent a kingdom, but you are tied to a republic? How you doing, Pepe? Thanks for being part of the community. The United States of America is a corporation. It's also known as a republic. Matter of fact, you keep talking about you're in a democracy. Homework assignment for you, right? You show me where in your Constitution it tells you that you live in a democracy. How you doing, Brother Terran? You catch what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? You got to tell me. You got to help me out. Where does it say in your Constitution? You said, aren't kingdoms republics? Sure. So you live in a kingdom that belongs to certain people, just like we're saying we live in a kingdom that belongs to somebody higher than us. But you don't live in a democracy, at least what you think a democracy is, right? A kingdom can be different. A kingdom can be better or worse. A kingdom can give you rights or take away rights. It depends on whoever the king or the queen is that's establishing law. Whatever a king or queen declares, it must be established. How you doing, April? But so yeah. So I'm not here to tell you that a republic is not a kingdom. Matter of fact, it didn't start off as it didn't start off as a kingdom, but in the world, but it became a kingdom, right? We got to get into Greece and we got to get into Rome, right? to fully comprehend that. And then, of course, if you want to get into England and what common law originally was, and then what it became, and now what it became with all these extra statutes. How you doing, Charlotte? Thanks for being on. Right? How you doing? 9, is it? 9, thanks for being part of the community. April Buck, thanks for being on. So yeah, I am talking about a kingdom. There's a kingdom of darkness, there's a kingdom of light. Right? And we live in the in-between so much that we are so busy being on the sand and we can't figure out when stuff happens, why are we still dealing with so much frustration? Why is there still people all the time? Why is there so much evil? If there is somebody who's above us and who you say is a higher power, who you say is Elohim, who you say is Elohim, who you say is God, who you say is Allah, who you say is whomever you want to name. If there's a Vishnu out there, even though different deities or deists or gods or neters or Elohim or Allah or whoever, right? They all live a little, they all different. It depends on the culture, but everybody always says, why is it that's there? But here's the problem is that you don't want to talk about what's accountable. See, you're accountable for how you build your house and where you build your house. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. It doesn't, by law, it doesn't really matter where you come from. It matters who you come from. This is why when you talk about those of you who are so busy talking about reparations, I keep saying it's going to be inward reparations that counts. Do you deserve reparations? If slave masters got reparations, should you get reparations? Sure. But you're not even considered to be a people. You're so busy trying to be everything else except what Yah has called you to be. Because a people is a nation. Your foundation is not built upon the rock that's solid. You're not a nation, but you're asking for what nations desire. See, Japanese, there are Japanese families that still get reparations. Why? Because they're considered to be part of a nation, right? There are Israelites, modern Israelites, that get reparations, right? Why? Because they're considered to be a nation. How you doing, Minister Tamar? Right? But you, right? Even your 501c3 places, they have gone ahead and said, we're not going to put the kingdom first. We're going to put the United States corporation first. And therefore, when they're part of that nation or fake corporation or fake government, they get things from the fake government. Right? But you don't live as a nation, as a kingdom. How you doing, Kareem? And so it's interesting that tomorrow everybody's going to go, and some people today, right, are going to go to your services, go to your camps, go to your 7-day Adventist places. You're going to go to your churches, wherever you go, and you're going to talk all this stuff about being free, but you're living in between. You're living in the sand. Your foundation is not solid. The foolish man builds his house upon the sand, in between the sea and in between the land. How you doing, Kalia? Hopefully I'm saying that right. And so if you in between, it's going to be difficult to figure out where you stand. See, a lot of people get into marriages and have never once thought about what is our foundation. Thank you, Zahara. How you doing? And thank you for the love. Appreciate it. A lot of people are coming into this and have never talked about foundation. You come into your marriage and nobody talks about, see, when you get used to dating is in the in-between. In the Bible, you don't hear about dating. Why? Because the dating, especially what you call dating, it's in between. I'll tell them a little bit about myself, but I won't reveal everything. Right? Y'all don't even talk about real stuff. Y'all gonna be together with one person and don't even talk about what you desire sexually. Especially because a lot of people ain't coming in so innocent and chaste. Y'all call it in the world today, y'all be talking about y'all got all these bodies. You got a body count. But you ain't talking about all that stuff that you picked up. You picked up a lot of foolishness along the way. You picked up a lot of wild stuff along the way. You picked up a lot of craziness. But if you're going to come into a relationship, we got to talk about that because, see, we don't even set a foundation in the bedroom. If we can't be honest about when we're supposed to be naked in front of each other, when we physically become one, we're going to have some difficult times talking about some simple stuff. Oh, I know we're not supposed to talk about that. We're supposed to be too holy. We're supposed to be holy, too holy to talk about that. But that's why some of y'all I be doing life coaching and marital coaching all the time. And when I get into these conversations, it's amazing how people have never even discussed what they want to do in the bedroom. And I'm not supposed to have it. Look, I got the sexiest wife on the planet. I can't have anybody outside of her until death do us part. And that means I can't have nobody ever. Right? Right? I can't have nobody else because my wife is going to outlive me. And so that means that we got to figure out, what do you like? What don't you like? And we got to talk about it before. See, you have this, you don't even realize that sex is marriage, marriage is sex, even including in the West. If you get married to somebody today and y'all don't have sex for a while, you will go back in front of the judge and you will tell the judge y'all haven't had sex. And guess what the judge would do? He will annul it, cancel it out. Never happened. Why? Because you got to consummate it. You got to become one. But you live in the in-between. I want to be able to say that I'm going to get married to a great man, a great woman one day. But at the same time, I want to go ahead and test the waters. And then what happens is what should have only been an experience. See, watch this. Many of us, when we have problems in the bedroom, when you're trying to forget your first, how you doing, Ryan? And we're trying to forget your first, and you're trying to get into other things and stuff, you're bringing other things into your relationship. And you should have never had any other things to bring in except what you and your husband were going to bring in. Your parents should have made sure that you were qualified to be husband and wife before you became a husband and wife. Your community should have been making sure you were qualified. All these things, you should have known what it was to be a mother and a father beforehand. And when you got together, you should be bringing community things together and seeing how they work for you two becoming one. But now your experiences are tainted, because now when somebody begins to do something in your mind, you say, ooh, when I was married to somebody else, this is what they did. That person I was married to on that one night stand, this is what they did. Oh, I like this, blah, blah, but I don't want to tell that person, because once again, I'm not supposed to tell them the whole thing. I'm supposed to be in between. I'm supposed to say, I love this person, but I can't tell them my experiences I had. And I'm talking about the bedroom right now, but the reality is you do it a lot in your regular lives. How you doing, Sister Patricia? How you doing, Margaret? Right? How you doing, Ryan, if I didn't say so already? You do it in your regular lives. I'm coming with baggage. I'm coming with depression, but I don't want them to know that I'm depressed. I don't want him to meet me in a depressed state. I can't let him have the power over me, know who I am. If he can't deal with you with who you are from the beginning, he can't deal with you. If she can't deal with you where you are in the beginning, she can't deal with you. Brothers out here taking her on an extravagant $500 first date, and now she's expecting $500 first dates, and you done mess it up, and you're going to call her a gold digger, when the reality is you should have said, hey, look, I see what's great in you. I got $50 in my pocket for us to go out, but really, I'm not trying to date you. I'm looking for a wife, and these are the things that I provide. And I'm looking for somebody that can help to encourage and help to multiply what it is that I have. And I want to be able to protect her and give her affection all day, every day. And I'm looking for somebody that's worthy of me being able to be one with. And do you think that I'm worthy of you? This is my resume. This is what I do. This is what I'm supposed to bring. All these different things. But because you're not willing to say all that from the jump, because I'm not saying you got to be open with everybody, but we talking about a person you're supposed to be married to. And you have no, but then everybody wants to argue. Now we arguing, well, men ain't nothing and women ain't nothing, and I got to take the red pill, and you're a simp, and well, you too much, and it's the patriarchy. See, but you're in between. See, when you're on the rock, when your foundation is on the rock, right? When your foundation is on the rock, I'm here to tell you that there's going to be more solidity to your relationships. How you doing, Sister Tori? How you doing, Meb? Is it MEB0999? World left. Thanks for being part of the community. Thank you for the love. See, you're looking for something to establish, but you don't have anything that's built upon the rock. The rock is solid. And by the way, it can't just be any rock. I can't build my foundation on a rock to where it's not to where it's solid and it's heavy, but it's not really attached to anything. It's just on top of something. It's got to be grounded. Right now, right? I don't know if you can't see it on YouTube possibly, but right now my feet are grounded. My feet are grounded, right? So there's toxins that come out of my body as I stand because I'm grounded. I'm connected to the soil. If something happens to the earth, it happens to me. If something happens to me, it happens to the earth. The two have become one because I've taken off my little Yashva specials, my little Yashvel 11s, right? I've taken off my sandals, right? And I've taken off anything that could separate me from the earth. We become one. And when we become one, some things start to happen. When we become one, some things start to happen. When there's no separation, see, even the slightest separation, right? Rubber, right? A lot of you wearing your shoes and stuff, the leather, the rubber, all the stuff that you're wearing is what? The soles on your feet, right? The soles on your shoes are protecting the soles of your feet. But the problem is you're so busy protecting the soles of your feet that now you have no connection to the ground. Did you catch that? The slightest thing. See, it makes me comfortable to make sure that I have some shoes on. But now what's happened is in my being comfortable, I'm not attached. I'm not connected. See, you can put on the shoes of church, and if you're not careful, you can get comfortable in the service. Come on, somebody, right? If you're not careful, you can get comfortable. You can put on the shoes. You can. It's just a slight thing, right? I'm going out with this person and this and that or whatever. You can get comfortable in it, but you might not be attached. See, to be attached to something, you're gonna find out real quick what's going on. See, that slight difference. The foundation that something is built upon is outstanding if it's built upon something that's solid. Just because it's comfortable, just because it's been built, just because watch this. I can't go running if I don't have running shoes on. I mean, that's true, but just comprehend you're not really feeling the ground. But I'm working off and I'm sweating out this and I'm sweating, yeah, but you're not feeling. I'm not saying go out there and run on hard surfaces. Some people, though, I've been there before, done this, right? You live in certain places in the world to where you barefoot everywhere, you don't even feel stuff on the bottom of your feet. Some of y'all done seen Pastor Kofi's feet, and sometimes my feet get black as I don't know what because I'm always outside, right? And to the average person, you would say your feet are dirty, but I would say my body is grounded. I'm planted, right? Somebody would say I can't just be showing my feet like this and that or whatever, but that's your feet need sunlight too. Every part of you, as we said earlier this week, you are what you eat. What are you planted in? Jehoshaphat says in Matthew chapter, forgive me, not Matthew 13. Matthew 15, I believe. I think it's Matthew chapter 15, that any tree that my father has not planted must be pulled up by the root. Come on, Mr. 252. I see. Any tree that my father has not planted must be pulled up by the root. What are you planted in? By the way, Father, Aleph, Abba, Source, One, Holy, Strong, Strength, Cultivation. All those things go into the word Father in our culture. Now, I have to admit, once again, as always, that this is talking about something that's cultural. This is something that's cultural. This is not for everybody because everybody doesn't want to live in the kingdom culture. So a lot of people want to live and say that they get things out of the kingdom, but you are busy not living in the kingdom. You have become, once again, Revelation chapter 3, you have become lukewarm. You have become the assembly of Laodicea. You got one foot in and one foot out. Hey, Ghana Life Organic, how you doing? Right? Jumbo, Aquaba, it's the same, right? You have become so many different things that Yah has not called you to be. You are in between. You are in between. You say things that are not in between, but you live in between. How do I know that? Because you say, for Yah I live, and for Yah I'll die. But let somebody tell you the statute, United States Code, that's not even lawful. It's legal, but it's not lawful. And you automatically do it without first saying, is that Caesar's? And is that Elohim's? And is it something that Caesar's asking me to do that goes above what the kingdom says? Or goes beyond what the kingdom says I'm allowed to go? How you doing, Leslie? How you doing, Coco? How you doing? Is it John or Jean? Writer, thanks for being part of the community. See, we're living in this. A lot of us are living in the sand. You are a chosen generation. That means there's a bunch of generations, but they're not all chosen. There's a bunch of people. See, watch this. When you hear generation, in your mind, you think that that means everybody. How you doing? We good events. Thanks for being part of the community. In your mind, you hear generation, and you just start. They say generation X and Y and Z and all this stuff, and you guys are quick to identify with whatever they say that you are. But I'm not part of that generation. I might have lived through some of the stuff that they went through, but see, the generation is even talking about the genealogy, the genes. That's not my family out there. Spiritual, physical, psychological, whatever. That's not my family. That's not my generation. Stop talking about all generations as if we all one generation. My generation ain't out here making sure that their babies is online twerking. Sorry, not sorry. Right? My generation isn't out here applauding the rappers who keep telling you how to make sure that they sell dope and poison your community. That's not my generation. If they choose to come out of it, then let's go. And by the way, I'll still help you. I'll still feed you. I'll still love you. I'll still speak to you. But you're not my generation. You're not my family. This is why, even though the original name of the first Savad or the first scroll of the Bible, or what you would call the first book of the Bible, in Hebrew is actually about a shat, which talks about in beginning, which is talking about a specific family's beginning. even a spiritual family, if you want to go there. How you doing, Clifton? But see, in beginning, or by the shot, is not for everybody. Even when they changed it in the Greek and the Latin to the word Genesis, they're talking about the Genesis, the genealogy. This, they called it that because they were telling you that they were talking about a specific family. You're talking about a Shemitic family. You're talking about a worldwide family too, but they start going into what? They start going to specifics. They start talking, they go from Adam into Cain and Abel, who go ahead and leave, right? But then all of a sudden you got Adam to Seth, and now Seth to Canaan, and Canaan to Enos, and skip down to Enoch, and skip, and then you've got Methuselah, and you've got Lamech, and you've got Noah, and you've got Shem, and then go down Shem a little bit, you get to Avra, who you call Hebrew, and then you go from Avra to Palag, and skip down a little bit, you go to Terah, and you go from Terah to Abraham, and from Abraham to Yasaiah or Isaac, and from Isaac to Israel, or to Jacob to Israel, and then you go from Israel to Judah, and then you're going from Judah, right, the southern kingdom that stays, and you have a conversation once the northern tribes leave to go for a land, go to a land that nobody resides in. You're still talking about Judah, and out of that comes the line of the tribe of Judah, and then anybody who believes in what the line of the tribe of Judah is and what the family does and becomes graft in, right? We all make it in Revelation 7, right? Revelation chapter 7, that the earth is going to be destroyed. But first, wait, Israel must be sealed. And then everybody who's grafted in, they're going to come in too. You're talking about a family. Your depiction of the Bible is messed up if your foundation is not even based on the right family, physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, culturally. How do you identify yourself? Because if you don't identify yourself correctly, you can't even identify yourself in the Bible. This is why many people can't identify themselves. How do you identify yourself in the Bible if you first haven't identified yourself? Ooh, that's a word. Come on, Avakakoda, she's spitting today. Come on, catch this now. I don't identify with what they say in the Bible, but you don't identify with the culture. Of course you do not. And I don't fault you for that, because it is not your culture. How you doing, Jaquetta? Thanks for being part of the community. I do not fault people for what they don't know, for what you're ignorant of. But once again, I must also tell you that if you're ignorant of it, there's still consequences that come with your ignorance. For those that wish to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, ask for something that never was and never will be. Those that wish to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, ask for something that never was and never will be. That's not quite a haiku, but it's nice, right? Those that wish to be ignorant and free, ask for something that never was and never will be. Remember who you are. You were a member of a body. Somebody cut you off. You've been put back and gone through training and physical therapy, and now it's time for you to become a member again, or to remember, not to recall. You might not recall this because you might not have been taught this. You might not have lived this. Your parents might have known this. But it's time for you to remember to come back into the body. And if you're going to be a member of this body, your foundation has to be right. This is why you got to hold me accountable, and I have to hold you accountable. What does your culture say about how you're supposed to live? Do you know, or do you just go by what somebody else says? What does your culture say? Have you ever thought about when they keep telling you that all your children are dyslexic, but in all your culture, everybody reads right to left? How you gonna be dyslexic when you read right to left? That doesn't mean you're dyslexic. That means that you have DNA memory that says we're supposed to go from right to left, not left to right. Something's wrong. Other places, they don't mind being on the right side of the on the right side when they're traveling by vehicle. You get messed up by it, but because why? Because somebody taught you in reverse and told you that what was reverse was righteous. But I'm here to tell you that just because they told you that it's right doesn't mean it's righteous. The power is on the right hand of the Father. The Son is on the right hand of the Father. In our culture, you eat with your right hand. Matter of fact, in our culture, you don't even use forks and knives. I try to do it because y'all think that's not civilized, but I don't mind, especially if I'm around enough of my people. I'll be in a fancy restaurants, right hand digging in. Think all you want about me. But at the end of the day, that's my culture. When I go back home, when I'm in what they call now today modern Ghana, and I'm in Ghana, right? I don't preach like this. I don't preach like this. I preach like this. Why? Because my right hand, I know on TikTok it looks like it's my left, but it's actually my right. I preach with my right hand. Why? Because over there, if you keep pointing at somebody with the wrong hand, you're cursing them. You said, what's wrong with the left? In our culture, it's the way that it is. It informs us about how we live life. Obviously, you have two hands for a reason. I'm not saying get rid of your left. I'm just saying you don't think about the culture of it. So when Yeshua is talking about stuff and he's talking about things or whatever, the right hand, he's talking about a cultural principle. He's talking about the way that they live. Everybody would have been right hand first. Even if you were left-handed, fine. You can use both hands for certain things, fine. You can use your left hand to grab your child, fine. But at the end of the day, your right hand is important. If I go over to my people and I try to do something, if I try to help an old woman with groceries, I better do so with the right hand. At least first, extend the right hand. If I go to shake somebody's hand, I better extend the right hand. If you go, right, I've been in the military before, right? I've done a lot of different military type ceremonies for a lot of different countries. And some of the worst things that would happen is when you would have a commander, when you would have you would have an officer, you would have an admiral, you would have a general, you would have a colonel or a colonel, you would have but you would have the colonel, you would have the captain, whatever. And somebody comes off the plane from another country. I've seen stuff like this, for example. They come off the plane from another country. Everybody's in attention, right? Certain people are doing certain things. Somebody salutes on behalf of everybody. You have people with their weapons in place, all this stuff. Everybody's standing. And the captain walks up and he goes, shakes the hand of the representative. And then the wife is right behind him. He goes to shake her hand. Guess what happened? The wife went like this. She didn't want to touch his hand. Now, some of you would say, what's wrong with her? In their culture, you don't just touch women like that, let alone touch somebody's wife. And there was a gasp. Everybody gasped because all of us were used to doing this, which means the captain either let it slip his mind or somebody who was supposed to be under him did not inform him, sir, please do not reach out and shake his wife's hand. Why? Because in their culture, that's wild. You don't just touch somebody's wife like that. Over here, oh yeah, what's up, sis? I ain't seen you in a minute. I'll still dap up, my man's first, give him a hug and everything, and then give the little sideways hug. That's what we do here. But over there, in certain places, I'm not saying in Ghana, I'm talking about somewhere else now. We're talking about what y'all would call Middle East, right? Certain countries from over there, you don't play that. I need to know your culture. I need to respect who you are. How you doing, Junior? How you doing, Weedhead? Now, somebody might say, well, they're coming into America and this and that. And this. No. You invited us here. Even if you invite me here, I still bring my culture with me. You know what I'm saying? So even though I'm coming into your country, everywhere my foot treads, it shall be mine. Read your Bible, it'll bless you. It's up in there. And so I'm a representative. As a representative, wherever I go, it's mine. You don't know how representatives work. The Bible tells you you're a representative. Everywhere that you go, you don't do what everybody else does. Matter of fact, if you know how representatives works from other countries, when they come over, a lot of them have even committed crimes and still don't get touched over here. They have to ask permission from the government. Hey, can y'all bring them back, or can y'all go ahead and put them on trial over there and put them in jail over there? Why? Because they don't belong to you. You don't have a right to put hands on them. Look it up, Google it. Come back and tell me if I'm lying. How you doing, Crystal Shop? But this is real. How you doing, servant of y'all? And what happens is we have decided that that we're going to go into somebody else's territory, but we're going to lose our culture at the same time, because the people who came into your territory and colonized you, they told you that you have to get rid of your culture. See, they told you you were integrated, but the word integrate means integrity. The word integrity talks about becoming one. It means to be whole. It means to be holy. And so we're going to really integrate. We're supposed to bring all cultures into it. Problem is, though, is that they have you as a mindset to where the only way to integrate is to get rid of who you are, and then we'll go ahead and allow you to sit at the table. You still won't eat like we eat, but you can say that you sit at the table. But Minister Malcolm Shabazz, or who we call Malcolm X, he taught us a great lesson one time when he taught, and he said, hey, just because I'm at a diner doesn't mean you can call me a diner. Just because everybody around me is dining, if I don't get to eat what you get to eat, if I pay what you pay or even more, and I don't even get to eat at all, you can't call me a diner until you let me dine. So just because I'm in a place called diner does not mean that I am a diner. Just because you are in the world and they let you do certain things here or there doesn't mean that you are what? In the world. You're not of it. Don't forget who you are. Come on, don't forget who you are. You sitting up here because they gave you a little plate. They let you come to the cookout and you excited. Everybody else was eating filet mignon, right? I know we don't do pork and stuff, but everybody was eating filet mignon, and you out here, sitting up here talking about that you got some chips, some pieces of barbecued Lay's, and you talking about that you dining. That's not who you are. If I go to somebody's house and they're Chinese, I will not be surprised if they use chopsticks, right? Because that's their culture. They shouldn't stop using chopsticks because I came over. Matter of fact, I get a little frustrated sometimes when I go to places. I go to really nice restaurants, Japanese steakhouses, or Chinese restaurants or whatever, right? Vietnamese joint, eat some pho or whatever, and I go somewhere and they just automatically give me a fork or a spoon. I say, y'all don't use that. Give me what you use. This is your culture. This is your dish. I want to experience what you experience when you eat, right? I want to experience what you have because that's your culture. I'm not just eating some food. I'm eating who you are. You gave me a piece of who you are. Please give me the whole experience. That's why I was saying the other day, when I go to the little Chinese joint, the little corner stores and stuff that you go to, I tell them straight up, please don't give me the stuff that's on the menu. Give me the stuff that you eat. I don't care if I got to pay extra. I came here for Chinese food, right? I can do fried chicken. Matter of fact, my people do fried chicken better. If I really want fried chicken, I don't eat it that much anymore. But if I really want some fried chicken, hey, I can go to my mama, my mother-in-law. My mother's passed, but I can go to my mama, and mama will throw down. Right, I don't need you to do all that for me, right? I can do that. I don't have to pay you extra to be able to do something that I can do for less, right? So don't give me what it is that's a kind of a version of my culture. I didn't come here for me. I know how to do me. If I need to do me, I'll invest in me, right? I came here to invest in you because I'm investing in your culture. Oh, it's gonna click with somebody. What is the foundation of your thinking? That's why we said when you're building a house, right? The higher the house, the higher the higher the skyscraper, the deeper the hole, the deeper the foundation. Is it frozen for everybody? Everybody's saying it's frozen again. Is it frozen? Is it frozen? I didn't even get past an hour this time. Is it frozen? Okay, no. All right, praise y'all. Right? If I'm gonna build the house, the foundation's got to be deep. Fathers are supposed to be foundations. They're supposed to be foundational. Brother, if you ain't deep, don't look for your family to be deep. Or put it this way, if you ain't deep, don't look for your family to go up that high. I had to go through so many lows. Oh my greatness, I wasn't ready to go here. Praise God. Have your way. Look, I'm going through so many things in my life. It seems like I'm going lower and lower. Get deep on them. Some people do beef, some people do pork. Okay. Right. I know some people do filet mignon and they put bacon around it, so that's why I was putting it. But whichever your style is, right? Right? Or I don't know if you're talking about the Chinese food. Forgive me. I'm no, right. I talk about a lot of stuff. I be going all over the place. That being said, somebody up here, why do I got to go low? Why do I got to go low? Yah is trying to show you the lowest of lows so that your family can go to the highest of highs. The higher your family going to be built, the further in the foundation it's got to be built. And the foundation has to be built inside of the rock, the earth, the rock, foundation. Pour that concrete in there or whatever else you pour in there. I don't know the recipe all the time for the foundation, so forgive me. I don't know everything, right? But they pour that mix up in there, and they pour it, and they got to let it sit. I remember for years walking across Washington D.C. up and down New York Avenue on the northwest side for years, walking past this place, open hole. Everybody was saying to themselves, what is going to be there? 4 years. What is going to be there? 4 years. And it had been open before I got there. They ain't never going to build. They must be getting something. They must be doing this. They must be doing that. Brother finally pulled me to the side and said, hey, don't believe the hype and everybody saying that the government's just wasting money. Yeah, the government does waste money on projects and stuff like that. But for real, if they're going to build a high place, they guess what they got to do? They got to build it lower than it is higher. And sure enough, I come back years later and look there, and it doesn't look the same. Why? Because there's this huge building standing up. I'm like, where did this come from? And then I remembered for years we were looking at a hole. But what was once a hole has now become a skyscraper. The foundation was being laid. I want to remind somebody. I want to just remind you that you keep saying, why is it taking so long? It takes longer to build the foundation than it does to make sure that you can see the house. Do you know that the average business quits before it even makes it to 7 years? Do you know that most families, all these people getting together now, they're getting divorces 1-2 years in? You talking about you want to make it 50 years. Thank y'all for the love. Appreciate it. You talking about you want your relationship to last for 50 years. It's going to take a long time to build a foundation. I joined up with Servants of Christ. See, we talking about membership. I joined up with Servants of Christ. I joined up with this camp. I joined up with this church. I joined up with this organization. I created my own organization. Why is it taking so long? I don't see everything happening. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff, and I'm getting promises, and I'm having faith, but I'm getting tired of waiting. I'm getting tired of waiting for this and getting tired of waiting for that. Yeah, but what does the Bible say? Don't get weary in well doing. When you've done everything you can to stand, what do? Keep standing. When you've done everything you can, stop. I'm getting tired of watching family get sick. I'm tired of this one pass away. I'm tired of this. He's building a foundation. Come on now, foundation work. We're not in a job. We're not in a toil here. We're in a work. It takes a long time to build a foundation. You're just now coming into who you've always been. You didn't stop being Israel in the 1940s. You didn't stop being Israel when Yehoshua was around and it was led by Romans. You didn't stop being Israel when Israel passed away. Matter of fact, the Bible says that you were Israel before the foundation of the world. Just because you're coming into something now, don't get it twisted. The foundation's been being built for thousands of years. Wow, herbalism, and we're just learning how the earth works. People have been using herbalism and doing brain surgery and things like this. They've been doing that for 4,000, 5,000 years now. You just coming into the knowledge of this. It takes a long time to build a foundation. For every house that you see that's beautiful. See, this is one of the things that's a problem now. And see, now we're so used to things being built overnight, but I promise you, this is something that even some of the greatest architects will tell you. I promise you, a lot of these things that you're seeing built today are not going to last like they used to. See, I own some of the stuff we used to build. Y'all would call them brownstones in New York, but I own some stuff like that, right? And those things have been around for 100 plus years. And you can see parts of it look like they've been around for 100 plus years, but it still stands. Because they took time back then. They knew if it was going to last, they needed to put in some time and put in some things that last. Shalom, how you doing, Jess Bernard? Right? A pyramid, you say, how does that thing last? Because they went and they looked for specific types of limestone. And they took their time and they made sure there were no gaps in between. It might take 40, 50 years to build a pyramid. So be it. Because it's got to last thousands of years. Part of the reason why it's hard for you guys to even comprehend who could build the pyramids, and we're looking for aliens, and now we got to become Anunnaki, and now we got to be this, and now we got to be that. Part of the reason that people started putting that on is because they can't figure out how to build it. But here's one of the things that let me help you with. Stop trying to figure out how they moved the stone and start figuring out the mindset of the people and what they thought, because everything that they thought, they did it out of worship. Even if they don't worship who we worship, they did it out of worship. If you worship a spirit, and a spirit is eternal, it means that whatever I'm building for the spirit has to last eternally. See, you build a house and you're just like, I want a nice house to build in and maybe leave it to my children. When they built a pyramid, they wanted to make sure that 5,000 years later, you be arguing over who built it. Why? Because you would see that somebody built it. There's a lot of places that aren't even built anymore. There's a spirit of excellence attached, right? They had skill, they had patience, they learned, they passed things down generation to generation to generation. Whether you want to talk about an Enoch and they had to be taught some of the principles by angels or whatever, fine, right? Even though they were fallen angels, but nevertheless, they were taught by angels, okay. But at the end of the day, they built these things because they were building them, especially considering how worship was going to take place. It was an eternal principle. Sorry, I'm gonna move this just for a second, because if not, this thing will overheat. Sun's starting to get in position. I'll make sure that you guys get a breathe, guys. Forgive me. Hold on 1 second for me. Give me 1 second. Praise Yah. right? See, you're not supposed to just build for the sake of building. What I'm building is supposed to last for generations. Are you building stuff just for the sake of building? Are you going out on dates just for the sake of going out? Or did you go out on a date the other day just because you was hungry and somebody offered? Or did you go out on a date the other day just because you was bored and you needed something to do? Did you go out on a date just because you're tired of being alone, but you're not trying to build a marriage? Everything, every thought that you have should be founded on the rock. See, watch this. Here's why the sand. Once again, what does sand mean? It's a compound word. It's sea and land. The sea out there and the land over here. When you build your house upon the sea, right? You're building your house or it's upon the sand. You're building your house in the in between. That means that it changes too often for you to build anything on it. Right? You are literally changing too often. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, your life changes too often. You don't have a solid foundation. And what is your faith? What is your belief? What is your knowledge? What is your science? What is your culture? What are your words based upon? What is it founded upon? People keep telling me this company, this company was founded since 1787. This company was founded since 1898. This company was founded since 1992. What it was founded in eternity. The word sea is a compound word. The S comes from sea. The and comes from land. It's in between the sea and the land. That's why they call it sand. So sand is an in-between place. It's in between the sea and the land, right? And I'm not coming against you, by the way, Ninja. I just want to go ahead and go a little deeper into what you're talking about, right? Is it I don't know if I'm going to say El Jefe Shinobi? I hope I'm saying that right. I want to go a little deeper in what you're saying. Even when you talk about a ghetto, where does the term ghetto come from? I want to even show you something about yourself. See, once again, your foundation, what is it founded upon? You think that the ghetto is just for poor black folk, but you got to do some research. Where did the term ghetto even come from? Help me out. We want to change something. You said term ghetto comes from the neighborhood. Kind of, sort of. I kind of like where you're going. I'm gonna put it together where you're gonna see why I like where you're going. But something else, somebody else. You hear ghetto. A lot of us think the hood. We think gated, or community where poor people live. You said anyone can live in the ghetto. Look at Brazil and the favelas. See, pero, that's not what I'm necessarily talking about. Now, some people say Jewish, right? Right? What they'll say, and when you say Jewish, you're not thinking about Yehovah Da'ain, but you're probably thinking about Ashkenazi or Khazarian, who were dealing with ghettos and what they were thrown into by Germany. Okay, but that's not quite far enough. I'm gonna use a term that they didn't use because this term Jew, remember the letter J is a new letter. We didn't used to have letter J's in many languages. You didn't even have a just sound until probably the 1700s, right? Really the 1700s when people started using it, right? So a lot of people talk about the Holocaust or untouchables, and untouchables, or even if we're using that term, I guess we can even talk about India and the untouchables, the Dalit a little bit, but that's not quite where we're going to. Ghettos were something. I'm gonna use the term Jew, even though they didn't have a letter J back then. But I'm gonna go back to the term ghetto. They called ghettos places that were in Spain, and especially more specific in Portugal. The ghetto was for people who they called um, Yehovah Da'ain, or they had a term that was close to what you now call Jew, and they described these people there. I won't tell you what this stuff is founded on. You might have a bad foundation. Yeah, Hebrew neighborhoods, and it really Israelite or Jewish, because Jew is different than Hebrew. Believe it or not, not every Jew is Hebrew, and not every Hebrew is Jew, right? And not every Israelite is Jew or Yehovah, and not every Yehovah or Jew is Israel, right? That's how that works. Whether you like it or not, that's actually correct. If you look it up, even in your Bible, if you're biblically inclined, look it up in your Bible. Read your Bible; it'll bless you, right? This is for educational purposes only. Thank you, right? So Just trying to give you some stuff. Watch this. In Portugal and in Spain, they had the Spanish Inquisition, which the Portuguese did as well, which is basically the Roman Catholic Church Inquisition. And they were starting to try and enslave certain people as well as trying to get everybody to bow down to their ways. During this Inquisition in Portugal specifically, but also a little bit of Spain, after the Moorish stuff is happening, right? 1491 is going to be when the Moors lose power, right after having it from the 700s to 1400s. And then if you go way back, the Carthaginians as well, even before Christ, right? And when you go back to this, you're going to see that there's these people who we would now call today Sephardic Jews, not Ashkenazi Jews, not Khazarian Jews, but Sephardic Jews, usually spelled Sepharic, Sephardic Jews. And you will discover that they said these Sephardic Jews were people who they made to bow down to Roman Catholicism. A lot of them gave up who they were, gave up their belief systems, gave up their ways, or else they would either get offed, right? They would take their lives, and then they would sell their children into slavery, and they would do all types of stuff to them. And so they forced them out of their belief system. And they described what these Sephardic Jews, what we would call today Sephardic Jews, they described what they looked like. They said that they were swarthy. They said that they had locks. They said that they were really into women. Why did they say that? Because in their culture, to be Spanish, men could be bisexual. And it wasn't a big deal. You weren't supposed to be that in public per se, but it was okay. In their culture, it wasn't okay. They said these people they actually forced them at one point that they had to wear these black hoodies. They said they would stand on street corners and play music. They said there would be people that would put poetry over the music. Today, you would call that hip hop. You would call that rap, right? But they said they wore hoodies with locks, were swarthy. They said they had a belief system. They said that they were people who believed in the Israelite faith, right? But let somebody today tell you what an Israelite looks like, and you get upset. You were frustrated. You were mad. You were angry. You were saying that people are reverse racist because you won't open a book. There's an old saying, right? I don't know how old, but there's a saying that's usually used against us. And I don't disagree with it, to be honest with you, because the saying basically says, if you want to hide something, put it in a book. I would say if you want to hide something, take away the culture. They said that you said that I'm that, or that's what people say you are. People would say that you're that, right? Which, by the way, you haven't heard. See, and this is why we got to see what it's founded on. People will say that. Now, where have you heard me say that if somebody is a Jew, that they can't make it into heaven? If somebody is a Jew, they can't learn about the word. If somebody is a Jew, they cannot be able to partake in what we're doing. You haven't heard me say that, right? But people will say that. Yeah, I get you. That's what they'll say about you. But you haven't heard me one time say that at all, have you? Matter of fact, if you believe in the Bible doesn't say that. Even if it says there are people that say that they are Yahweh Da'ain and are not, it still never says that they can't get into heaven. So when people say that, you got to say to yourself now, where is that coming from? What is it founded on? Once again, we're talking about foundation. What is it founded on? Is there any depth to it? Or is it just a surface level thing? Somebody's in their feelings or somebody doesn't want to give up who they are. I'm not going to give it away, right? But I spent this rising because it's been a really tiring week for me. I was supposed to have this done earlier in the week, but I spent this rising putting together a video for the babies. They watch a video and then they discuss it on their Saturdays. And so I got up early and made sure I put the video together for them, and it's uploading right now that they might be able to watch it. And we were talking about Lazarus being raised from the dead and how there are certain things and certain traditions, right, and certain things culturally that are not that are not correct, that are not real, but we still hold on to them. And if we're not careful, it will actually cancel out blessings that are supposed to come to us. How you doing, Soccer 15? Thanks for being part of the community, right? And so I put that video together, right, to where you'll hear some stuff. It's not founded. It has no depth. We were talking specifically about it's John chapter 11. I hope I'm in the right book. I think it's John chapter 11, verses 1 through 47. And it's talking about when Yahshua raised Lazarus from the dead. And it talks about that Yehoshaphat got word. Mary and Martha sent a messenger to him saying that Lazarus is really sick. And Yehoshaphat already knew that Lazarus had died when the messenger got there. He tells the disciples when they get ready to go that Lazarus is already dead. And the reason why that's important is that they keep mentioning this over and over again in scripture, but we don't know culture, so we miss it. How you doing, Mac D? Thanks for being part of the community. So we miss what's being said there, but they keep mentioning this thing over and over and over again. It says he's been dead for 4 days. Now, why do they keep saying over and over again? What's this importance? What's this inference on he's been dead for 4 days? You see that at least twice, I think maybe 3 times. You'll see that in those 47 verses. Why does it keep saying he's been dead for 4 days? Why does it matter how long he's been dead? If you can raise somebody from dead, you can raise somebody from the dead. Well, they had this false teaching that it crept in through the leadership, through the Pharisees, right, and the Sadducees, that basically said that if a person is dead for more than 3 days, they can't be raised from the dead, because to them, they said that they taught a teaching that said that your spirit had to dwell over the body for 3 days. And if the spirit dwelled over the body or wasn't living around or over the body for 3 days, right? If it got past that, you couldn't raise them. If you could raise them before that 36, before that, what's that, 72, before that 72 hours was up, if you could raise them back from the dead within that 72 hours, then they could come back. How you doing, Sister Austin? How you doing, Simplicity? Right? So if you could get them within that 72 hours, they were straight. But if you couldn't get there, and so they had waited 2 days, knowing they would not have to take a 2 days journey to get to him. That meant that it was 40 miles. A day's journey was 20 miles. So he knew it would take 40 miles or 2 days journey to be able to get to him. However, they already knew, right? He already knew he was dead, which meant that if anything, he should have tried to be getting there as soon as he could. But the problem was, so when he got word, Lazarus was already dead. So the clock started when he got the word. Lazarus had died when he got the word. So if anything, he should have left that day, or at least only took one other day and really rushed over there so that he could raise him from the dead. Matter of fact, when they get there, the people who are, it says the Yehovah, the Jews that are comforting the family, it says that those particular people that are around, they say, man, if this man who could raise everybody from the dead, if this man who could heal all these other things and perform all these miracles, maybe he could have raised Lazarus from the dead, but he wasn't here yet. And he says, roll the stone away. And everybody's like, no, bro. Like, even Martha's like, Yeshua, like, his body's stinking. He dead. He's been dead 4 days. He can't come back. She had just finished saying that I believe that he'll be resurrected one day, but in her mind, she was still stuck on it's past 3 days. He can't be resurrected in this time frame. But Yehoshaphat said, I am the resurrection. See, that's what's going on there. But we don't even know the culture. So you hear that conversation, you see that story, you read that in the Savah, you read it in the scroll, but you don't even catch what's really going on. That John is trying to show you, Yohanan or John is trying to tell you specifically, like they swear in their mind, they have a surface level of this. They think that you can only be raised from the dead on their standard. But here comes the foundation. Here comes the cornerstone who bases everything upon the foundation, who says that any tree that's not of my Father has to be pulled up by the roots. He's foundational, and he comes in and he says, no, we're not talking about what you think it is. He says, I'm talking about something that goes deeper. You're not going to be able to see the house come back up. You're not going to be able to see Lazarus. Lazarus, the body, the house, the temple, it looks like it's dilapidated, but you're not going to be able to see it come back and be salvation until you first go deeper with the foundation. The problem is not that Lazarus cannot be rebuilt. The problem is that we got to go deeper into the foundation. Where is your faith? Let's go a little deeper. So Yehoshaphat says, okay, let's go deeper into the foundation. And then he even does something specific. I don't want to give everything away for the children that are listening, but I'm not gonna give everything. But y'all will listen to it later on. You'll see what that's about. Those of you who are gonna be on with us with the babies, and I put it on the YouTube channel for everybody, anyways, if you want to go look at it, right? But here's the deal. Yehoshaphat, he says, Father, I thank you. I thank you that everybody's about to see your glory. He says, I'm saying this out loud. He already told the disciples this. Now he says it when he gets to the city. He says, I'm saying this out loud, not because you need this, not because I need this. We're already locked in, but everybody else is on the surface. They have their stuff in the sand. They're halfway in between the sea and halfway in between the land. They're so busy saying why this can't be resurrected, and they're not realizing that I am the resurrection. The foundation is showing up. So he said, I'm thankful that they get to hear you, and I'm saying this out loud. He said, I'm saying this out loud out so that everybody knows that you're going to get the glory. This is your doing. Nobody's going to be able to get glory for this but you. Then he turns, Lazarus, come forth. And here he bound, trying to, can you imagine? And after that, it doesn't say he had to preach a sermon. Uh-oh, how you doing, Fruit Man? Thanks for being part of the community. After that, no preaching. After that, no service. No organ played. They sat down, they ate. You know why they sat down and ate? Because tradition said that if you are alive, you have to be able to eat. If you're walking around but you don't eat after a while, yeah, you can fast, but after a while, if you were dead but somehow you were raised, they were teaching you were a zombie. How you doing, King and Queen? You said wasn't his Hebrew name pronounced the same way Joshua pronounces his name? No, yeah, Joshua, or have been Yeshua. We don't have an S sound in Hebrew, right? Yeshua is as close as a lot of people get. It actually would have been Yahashafai, excuse me, which we could write out, but I don't have my board right now. But we have different writings and teachings on that. If you'd like to be able to get more, you can go on the YouTube channel and look up some different things that we have as far as that, including having been led as we believe in one of the playlists. I believe it's already written in there, right? But see, they were talking about some surface level stuff. They were talking about some surface level stuff. But he said, no, we got to go deeper. Like when people talk about Hebrew, a lot of people talk about modern Hebrew, but Yahashua, or who you call Yeshua, or who you call Jesus, or whatever you call him, the Messiah. But Yahashua, in your word, he tells you in Matthew chapter 5, verse 18, that until heaven and earth pass away, should not in no wise one jot or tittle in any wise pass. That literally means, when you break it down into the Hebrew, it breaks down to the word they're using for jot there. Jot is what they're actually talking about as far as the dot over the, I'm sorry, like basically like well, let me put it the way they say it in Hebrew. Jot is basically breaking down to a word that says it's the most minuscule of measurements, and tittle means even the hand, or the yod, the hand in which is led to be written in. The interpretation. That means that we were never even supposed to change the way it was written. So how do you have a modern version of something that should have never been changed? See the foundation? Why do you pronounce or a or oo or or I or o when there are no sounds like that in the original language? It's because our foundation is not deep. It's not based on the rock. It's based on the sand. Whatever somebody feels like it being, as long as it attaches, we can attach our emotions to it. As long as our mama and daddy were okay with it, as long as whoever we're under is all right with it, we just go with what they say. But the truth is the truth. The foundation is the foundation. If it's truth, if it's rock, it doesn't change like sand does. Sand I can sculpt overnight. If I want to change some rock, I've got to do some stuff to the rock. Salah. Hallelujah. How you doing, None? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Arthur Green? Thanks for being part of the community. See, watch this. If I'm going to do something with rock, right? I've got to use some tools. This is why the altar was never supposed to be changed. When you come to the altar, this is the context, the concept of the altar. If I built an altar before you, I'm allowed to go and get rocks and wood and kindling and possibly even water and all types of stuff, right? And then, of course, whatever will be offered upon it. I'm not supposed to, in any way, shape, or form, do any kind of changing of the material. I can't sculpt it. I can't change. I'm not supposed to carve the wood. I'm not supposed to do any of that, right? It's supposed to be something that is of Yah's nature, untouched. It might be moved by human hands, but it can't be touched, if you will. It can't be shaped. It can't be remolded. It can't be modified. Like your food that you have a problem with, it is modified. The problem is not that it's food or not. The problem is it is modified food. And they modify it so they can patent it, right? Because you cannot patent what Yahweh has created. Thank you for being part of the community today, Vivi. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody. How you doing, Kathy? And everybody who's on. Right? It's been corrupted. So when they talk about the altar, they're talking about something that you can't modify. You keep coming up to the altar. See, you're so used to an edifice that has a nice stage, and they say come up to the altar, and you think that means come up. Or if you have a smaller place that you worship in, you think that come up to the altar just means come up and come here. No. The altar is not supposed to be modified. Watch this. Are you not the temple of the living Yah? Do you not feed your temple? If you feed your temple, why do you keep feeding things that modify it rather than things that restore it, or what we might call salvage it? If I salvage it and I put a tion on that word, tion, sion, on le français, or in Latin, or in Espanol, sion, whatever. When I put a tion, a cion, whatever on the end of a word, that indicates that it is a noun. It is a person, a place, or a thing. So if I'm going to be in salvation or salvation, it means what? It means that I'm going to a place where I'm going to become greater as a person. I'm going to make sure that the places that I am are going to become greater back to their original intent. And I'm going to make sure that the things I do are always for their original intent. We are living in the sand in between the sea and the land, right? The land, the rock, is where you build the foundation, not on the sand, because the sand is in between. When the tide comes, it's going to be drugged back in, and you're drugged back in on a lot of different things. I'm sorry. You said if you read the Maccabees, those are the kingdom of Yehuda or Yehuda were called Jews, but not necessarily from the family branches. Well, I mean, even still, that word that they're using, right, is not is they're using that's modern terminology. That word Jew, right, didn't exist. We're reading a changed up version of the Maccabees, right? Because there's no letter J, but I get you, right? And they would have been Yehuda or Yehuda, right? Or like you said, Yehuda. Said in the Maccabees, it was also said the population had been transplanted and mixed when conquered by the Greeks. Most in the land of the family branches. Edom came to power after liberation. Well, that's very true as well, right? We have to figure out what branches, right? Because remember that we didn't even use the word tribes. The 12 tribes of Israel is more supposed to be the 12 kingdoms of Israel, or we use the term branches. That'd be a better one. You said, why am I living in polluted air? I don't know. What does that have to do with what I'm talking about? If you don't mind me asking, Tiger, why are you living in polluted air? I'm not sure, but I just don't know where to go with it. But either way, right? If it's gonna be, if I mean, I don't even know if that's low hanging fruit to use, because I don't know. And in your mind, I think that worked better than what it was supposed to. But regardless, thank you for being on. Um, so you hear what I'm saying? Like you got to be in a position where you realize that the foundation is there. Even the person who was coming on to be a troll, you got to at least make sure your foundation is there. It's hard to troll somebody, and I don't even know what you mean. You know what I'm saying? At least troll correctly. Like, I guess it was supposed to be what? Polluted because what's coming out of my mouth is jacked up, or the people I'm listening to are jacked up. I don't know, but I can't even deal with it correctly. Right? You see? You got to even troll correctly. You got to have some foundation in your trolling. Troll game is off. you know? But we had to be willing to do that. We got to be willing to see what's going on. We had to be willing to actually look at what's foundational. You say, why do some people say Yahuwah? Some people say Yahweh. Some people say Yahweh. Some people say, Jehovah, Iova, whatever. We're dealing with culture. We're dealing with we're dealing with dialects at this point. When you were scattered, right? It's just like saying, why do some people say, hey, you all, and some people say, hey, y'all, right? Why do some people say, I got a girlfriend, and some people say, that's my friend? It's just dialect, just simple changes that happen over time. Right. But we want our best to always be able to go back to the origin as much as possible, because even the dialects, right, are based off of what came before. Right. And it's got to be founded in something, founded upon something. And then once it's founded upon it, whatever is underneath it is going to be higher. It's got to be stronger. Watch this. Your house, in Hebrew, the word house doubles for family. Your house is based on a foundation. If I'm looking for property, I'm looking at the foundation first. You say Elohim, okay, cool. We say Alacham because there would be no S sound, right? But it would be Alav, or what people call Aleph. It makes an A sound. But either way, right? Once again, people are dealing with what we usually learn through somebody else. And that's cool. You do what you do, right? I'm not here to argue or go through that stuff today, right? We could end up going left real quick and not make sure that we stay on task. So, praise Yah that at least you have more mind than many people do, to not just be throwing out the wrong terms. And at least you'll try to use Elohim. El comes from something different than Al, but we talked about that before. We leave that alone for today, but appreciate it. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody coming on. Thank you for spending some time with us. Barakallah Sham Yahweh, may the peace of Yahweh be upon thee. So yeah, we've got to get to this place right? Where we recognize what's really going on. We got to get to this place to where we realize that a lot of this stuff is not founded on the right stuff. We have to begin to get back to a place to where we recognize the truth. See, once again, how you going to talk about marriage and you don't know that in your culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex? And then how do you know in your culture? See, watch this. There's an argument that goes on. Here's another argument that pops up in our community quite a bit, right? It comes and it goes as it ebbs and flows. But here's another argument that happens in our community quite a bit. We're happy you stumbled upon it too. How you doing, Shabbat Shalom, Cheryl? In our community, there's an argument that pops up. Was Yehoshua born of Mary, who was a virgin, as in she never had sex? Or was Yehoshua born of Mary, of a virgin, meaning she was just very pure in what she did, and therefore Yasav, or who we call Joseph, would have been Yehoshua's actual father, right? Some people argue that. Many of us argue that, right? Problem, or if you've been around in this long enough, you would know that there's people that argue that, right? Problem with that argument is many different things, but I'll try to make it 2 or 3-fold. Problem with the argument is it's all culture. Number one, in our culture, if you're talking about marriage, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. So no two people are officially wedded until you would see the hymen break and the semen break. This is how it worked, right? Like during the marital ceremony, everybody would come together, everybody would celebrate. At some point during the ceremony, the husband and wife, you had to already be qualified as husband and wife, and your parents had to already have agreed to terms as far as everything was going to work. The wife was going to go ahead and prepare herself for her husband with her oil, have an oil in her lamp. The husband was going to go and prepare a place for his wife. It was an add-on to his father's property. It was called a mansion. A mansion is an add-on. That's why in my father's house are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. That's why it also says in scripture that no man knows the day, nor the hour that the son is going to return except the father. Why? Because the father watches over his son build the house, or the mansion, to add on to his house. And once he figures it's big enough and nice enough for his family to live inside of, and for his other family to come and help his son and his soon-to-be daughter-in-law, right? Then they make sure. Then he says, "Okay, go get your wife." So no man actually knows what's going to happen, who's going to say things are ready, except for the father. How you doing, Christian Life Coach? Thanks for being part of the community. No man knows the day nor the hour except the father. That's a cultural statement. People don't catch that. People don't get that. That doesn't reside in your brain because you think that that's like a really nice statement. No, that's everyday occurrence. So when Joseph and Mary, who we call Joseph and Mary, it really would have been Yasav at Mariam, but who we call Joseph and Mary, Joseph would have gone to his father's house to add on a place, as his father was telling him what he was going to need to make sure that Mary could eventually move into the house, or move into the mansion to add on to the house. Mary's supposed to be preparing herself for her husband. Their parents have already come to terms. They would have had a knocking ceremony. This is why the Bible says stuff like, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." And you would have came in during the knocking ceremony. If I was the father of the groom, or hopefully would become the groom, I would come in with him, right? And then there would be witnesses, because the people would have to sign affidavits. And we would have a conversation, father to father. And once we agree on the terms, and I would have to pay a dowry, or we'd have to agree on what needs to be paid or what service needs to be given for your daughter, who's valuable, to be able to come from your family into our family, then we would go ahead and do the stuff I just described, right? Now, what does this have to do with Joseph and Mary? You have to realize that it said that, once again, the knocking ceremony has happened, contracts have been signed, affidavits have been signed. Everybody agrees that one day these two will lay down in the bed and be married. So we don't sign paperwork for their marriage. We actually sign paperwork for the betrothal. See, this is culture speaking. You got to have the culture of it. We don't sign paperwork for what you call the marriage, or in our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. That's why when the Bible says he knew her, that's when they had sex. That's when they became intimate. To know somebody means to be intimate with them. To know the Most High means to be intimate with him. Okay? So they didn't know each other yet. And while he's preparing a place for his wife, and the paperwork's been signed already, and all the witnesses have seen everything, the affidavits are in place, right? She becomes pregnant. See, you don't know the culture enough, so people are arguing over the wrong thing. See, she would have already signed paperwork. We as a family would have technically already adopted her in, although she was not married in yet. She was preparing her place she was preparing herself for her husband. Her husband was preparing a place for his wife. So all of a sudden, Joseph comes back from preparing the place and happens to see Mary at a certain point, and they see each other. We don't have this thing where you can't see each other before you get married. That whole 24 hours, not supposed to see each other or whatever, right? But right, that's not our culture. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm just saying that's not culturally accurate, right? But then, right, walking down the aisle is not in the Bible either, right? So you see, we got to even think about what the marriage ceremony looks like. So before they even get to the marriage ceremony, Joseph sees Mary, and Mary admits to him that I am pregnant, and she says, I've been impregnated by the Holy Spirit. Now, he, as a man, goes, I mean, I guess. But he's like, no, she must be cheating on me. Let's just keep it a buck. And it's okay for him to think like that. Most of y'all would think like, matter of fact, you should think like that, because ain't nobody else gonna have no immaculate, what they call the immaculate conception. So he's thinking like everybody else would. Queen Mary tried to say that about herself, Bloody Mary, King Henry VIII's daughter, right? She tried to say the same thing about herself. She couldn't get pregnant, or she waited too long to sleep with somebody. And then she tried to say, to make people like not give the throne to her sister, she tried to say she had a child coming. Said people were doing the same thing. Like, right? Because, right? So Joseph is doing the same thing that we would do. I don't know about this. And it says he's going to put her away privately, right? That means he was going to put her away privately. Why did he need to put her away? What does put away mean? Moses told you what put away means. It means that you're going to go ahead and what you would call get a divorce. But they haven't slept with each other yet. Yeah, because they already were married. As far as they were betrothed, that was when you signed the paperwork. See, in our culture, the way that, once again, like I said, the marriage ceremony works is we have a ceremony, everybody comes together, we're excited, and then two people go in the room and they do what they do. And if it's, especially if it's the way that Yah wanted it to be, that means that her hymen's going to be broken, and the man's sperm is going to go out. His sperm, which is blood, will go inside of her. Her hymen, which is blood, will go inside of him, and the two become one. They will leave there, and the father of the bride will actually go in the room, and he will grab the sheet, and he will hold it up in front of everybody. Everybody will celebrate the two becoming one. I'm not saying y'all got to do that anymore. I'm just telling you what happened. He would go in the room, he would grab the sheet, he would bring it before everybody and say, see, they're one. The two became one, and everybody would celebrate. And from that point on, if they ever wanted a divorce, right, for adultery is actually porneia or pornea. It literally means pornography. Pornography is any false image of marriage. So if you're living a false image of marriage, if you're having bad thoughts about things, if you're lascivious, or if you commit adultery, which really committed adultery is actually after you've gotten, so adultery really, if we be real, a lot of people don't even want to go here. See, cheating is really more fornication than anything else. Adultery is actually when you've left your spouse and then you keep having sex with other people outside of your marriage, and you didn't prove that there was fornication. So not only have you committed fornication, right, or you brought that person into adultery. Adultery is if y'all shouldn't have divorced in the first place, and you messing around with other people. You think adultery just means cheating, right? In a sense, it does, because every time you have sex, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. So if I'm having marriage with other people while I'm supposed to be in this marriage, then you could say, in a sense, it's fornication. Adultery. But fornication is actually any false image of marriage. So adultery is always falling under fornication. Fornication is your problem, is that you have false images of marriage. And even when it comes to the patriarchy, right? Their patriarchy is not our patriarchy. Our fathers don't operate like that. Real men in our culture don't operate like that. We don't train our sons to be what their people are. We have a deeper foundation. This is why I don't have to disrespect anybody to be able to say I believe in male and female. But watch this. In our culture, in our culture, we don't believe. I'm gonna mess with your theology a little bit, but hopefully you get I'm gonna mess with your theology. I'm gonna bring some psychology in. I'm gonna show you the soul of how our people work, and prayerfully you'll be able to catch this. But some of you are gonna be run off by the beginning of it. But if you hold on in there to the end of this example, I promise you're gonna get it. You're gonna receive something powerful. You ready? In our culture, we don't believe in marriage between a male and male. I think a lot of people say, all right, the Bible does declare that. In our culture, we don't believe in marriage between and once again, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. So we don't believe in marriage between a male and male. We don't believe in marriage between a female and female. Watch this though. I'm about to mess with you here. Some of y'all gonna be like, what you talking about? In our culture, we don't believe in marriage between a male and a female. Hmm? I'm gonna fix it for you though. Watch this. We don't believe in marriage between a man and a man, a woman and a woman, or a man and a woman. Now I'm talking about your spirit. Just hang in there. I'm losing some people, but just hang in there. Thanks for being part of the community, Tiff Tiff. Appreciate it. Right? In our culture, we don't believe that you should become man and wife. That's what they say in some of these ceremonies. That's not us. We don't believe that you should become woman and husband. That's not us. We believe that you're supposed to be pre-qualified as husband and wife. And once you are husband and wife, you can now begin to prepare yourself for marriage. We have no problem with men, with women, with males, with females. We have no problem with any of that. But in our culture, you got to be husband and wife. Husband is another level of man. It means he's gone deeper. Ah, come on now. Ah, come on, yeah. Man, if I didn't have so much stuff today and we didn't have all the stuff, we would get deeper on this. Look, he don't believe. We don't believe in marriage between a man and a woman. You got to be a husband and a wife. Husband is deeper than man. Wife is deeper than man. Wife is deeper than woman. Women are supposed to be respected, but a wife, she gets more respected. Talking about you love Yah, but you're not his wife. You know, in the spirit, I'm a wife, and Yahweh is my husband. In the physical, I'm a husband, and the Honorable Maya is my wife. And I love my wife the way that Yah loves me. I learned how to be a husband ultimately because I did have a great husband in my life with my father, right? But I learned ultimately how to be a husband by looking to my husband of husbands. And I was it now when I deal with or I speak with my wife, when I love on my wife, when I appreciate my wife, when I separate my wife from other things and make her holy and sanctified and say, hey, baby, you don't even deserve to be in here. I don't even talk about bad issues with my wife. I talk about myself, but I don't tell you anything that my wife you might deem to be bad. You know why? Because it ain't your business. You know why? Because she's supposed to be sanctified and put aside. See, but once again, my foundation's deeper. I comprehend that. Many people, you're so so much on the surface level that you keep calling people simps, but that's because you simply have not gone deep enough. But for those, see, I'm willing to love my wife out of the depths of things that she dealt with when she was coming out and coming into marriage, and she wanted to be a wife. And we had a conversation before we went out and did anything at all. The first couple conversations that we had, it was straight up, hey, over the phone, what is it that you're bringing? First of all, these are the things that I'm doing. These are the things that I see. This is a vision that I have. I'm not there yet financially. I'm not this. I'm not that. But this is my vision. This is what I can be. This is what I bring to you. This is my baggage. And she had to say the same thing. Because I've got to be willing to go into the depths of who my wife is. You talking about simp, but you simple. You simple-minded. Cook, clean, have sex. Cook, clean, have sex. Caveman. Sound like a caveman. Wake up. Ugh. How you doing, baby? I love you. Ugh. Can you take the trash out for me? Ugh. That's what you sound like. You sound like a caveman. Sound like a zombie. Wake up every day, do the same thing. Ugh. Babe, can you say I love you more than me? Ugh. Babe, I wish that you would be able to teach me like you teach other people. Ugh. But then you call me a simp because I wanted to go deep into the places to where my wife, and look, my wife still sometimes say you got to go deeper in certain things like that. And I appreciate her for doing so. But look, my wife don't ask some of the same questions that your wife or your girls or your side pieces or your whatever you have. She don't ask those questions. You know why? Because I go into depth for her. The only person that's even worth going into debt for is my wife. I don't go into debt for y'all, but I go into debt for her. Because I'm willing to go as deep as possible. But if I go into debt for her and we both come out together, then guess what? She's not going to spend the money the way she used to spend it maybe before. You know why? Because she respects the fact that I was willing to go into debt with her. So hey, let's come out together. And I'm not just talking about finances either. The debt of separation anxiety, the debt of our wives are dealing, these women are dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. The debt of people telling them that their bodies are not great enough. You busy telling them to get a BBL and they're trying to love their bodies. The debt of being told to get perms and now they're sitting around walking around with fibroid cysts because of something that as simple as they didn't want to wear their own hair. The debt of y'all making fun of them when they don't have makeup on, when the reality is if they ate well or whatever, they wouldn't have any blemishes to try and cover up the superficial. See, to be a husband, I got to be a foundation, because every man, every husband, the difference between a man and a husband, right? Every husband is a foundation, and I got to go deeper than the family. If you see my wife and you say, look at the Honorable Maya, look at Solomon, look at his family, look at Sister Rose, look at Brother John, look at SOC, look at that. That means I got to be deeper than everybody else if I'm supposed to be foundation. If they're going to break generational curses, that means that I have to have broken them first. I know you don't want to hear that. See, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Stop saying you want the crown, but you don't want to go deep. It's heavy wearing the crown. It's serious. Even the word glory means heaviness, weight, imprint, serious. We say glory, but you don't want to be serious. Everybody can scream glory, hallelujah, but you're not serious. You just like the Joker. Why so serious? When he was asking that question from a crazed position in his mind, he had a screw loose. So many people are so busy trying to love and empathize with the villain, and you're trying to figure out his story. Maybe he's just crazy, trying to empathize and theorize why it's okay to let the United States corporation keep doing you like they're doing you. Maybe they just crazy. Maybe they just satanic. Uh-oh, how you doing, more Israel? Uh-oh, I know, we're not supposed to, but maybe they just satanic. And maybe you need to find a way to separate. I didn't say segregate, but maybe you need to separate, starting here. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present yourselves a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service. You can't serve unless you're able to reason this way. And it comes through what? Being not conformed to this system, or what you call world, but being transformed by the renewal of your, and that word there, mind, is pneuma, pneumatical thought, P-N-E-U-M-A. It means the stoic thought that marries the soul, the body, and the spirit together. Every day, your soul must be renewed. Every day, your body, yes, even your physical body must be renewed. And every day, yes, your spirit must be renewed. That's what your mind is. Your mind is not your brain. Your brain is in your body. You think with your brain. You think with your gut. You think with your hands. That's why you say, man, I can't think about it like that. My brain can't wrap around it. You say stuff like, I have a gut feeling about this. You say stuff like, my heart's not in it. You say, I can't really hold on to that thought. You say, that's not really something I would walk in. You say, I don't even want to sit in something like that, right? You think with your body, but your spirit, your spirit, right? You think with your body, but your mind is thinking for your body. Your brain is thinking for your body. Your mind is when you're thinking with your spirit, your soul, and your body. That's when you become whole. That's when you become holy. Put a W before that H. Stop letting them trick you. Some of you are so mystical that you can never be practical. There's an old saying, you are so heavenly minded that you have no value here on earth, right? You keep twisting stuff so that you can make excuses for the fact that you're not even being accountable for the fleshly things. That's why I somewhat started off today asking some simple questions about you guys are trying to get into marriages and won't even be honest about what your sexual appetite is because you don't think that that's spiritual. But whatever goes from the body to the soul, it goes into the spirit. And whatever goes from the spirit to the soul, it comes into the body. So if you don't make sure that, it doesn't say kill off the flesh completely. It says put the flesh in subjection. Sorry for using the K word, excuse me, before somebody gets on me. Praise y'all, right? My spiritual daughter get on me if I keep saying that word, right? But you hear what I'm saying? How you doing, Tini? You hear what I'm saying? You got to go deeper into this. We're so shallow. We're so shallow. We're so shallow. They should call you Hal because you're so shallow. Hallowed be his name, not shallow be his name. You're so shallow. You're so defeated. You're thinking about things that don't even matter. Let me read this F for today again. These 7 F's, these 7 pillars that we're going over for membership for those that want to be members. And just if you're going to be a member of the kingdom, you should hold on to this. You ready? Foundation. Foundation is what? This is the most important part of a physical building. A house can look great. The windows can be amazing. The colors and patterns can be out of this world. Your curtains can match the couch. But if your foundation is cracked, the house cannot stand. The same goes for that which we shall build. All of our principles shall be formed upon very sound foundation. By the way, in the Bible, when it says the word sound, it's actually in the Greek using the word called hygienikos. It means it'll be clean. It'll be lawful. Just like an offering must be lawful, you must be clean. Who can be able to do this? He who has clean hands. How you doing, Tinkerbell? Dad. All right. All of our principles shall be formed upon very sound or clean foundation. If our laws are not governed by principles that run deep, we cannot expect our family to stand. Remember, the higher the building, the deeper the hole, the stronger the foundation. When we build a nation, when we're nation building, we're not just building random stuff. We're not just building the edifice. We're not just trying to have a place where everybody can say that they had a nice time, even though we want to have great times. And by the way, if you're not familiar with us, we know each other. A lot of us on here, that's why you hear me using people's names. We talk to each other, we visit each other, we see each other, and we're all over the place. And when I say all over the place, I mean we have people all over the place. UK, Australia, from time to time now, not as much. Caribbean, heavy in England specifically. We got to really pick that up. Somebody gonna have to help me because I just don't have the time, but we're gonna have to pick that up and somehow make sure that they start getting more involved over there too. Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to some point get over there to see them too, right? We come through. We're in Maryland not too long ago. Just did a visit. Probably do one somewhat soon. Probably give us a month or so, but probably do another one there soon. We haven't been over to Florida. Well, we went to Florida, but we didn't get to go Southern Florida, which is where most of everybody is. By the way, reminder, everybody that's in Atlanta or in Georgia, period. We're not going to meet in Atlanta. Normally we've been doing Atlanta, but we want to make sure those who are in Southern Georgia can meet up with us. So those of you who are in Georgia, we're looking at July 1st. I got to send out a message to Minister Kevin and Minister Tamal, and hopefully they'll be able to reach out to everybody for us, and we'll find out if we get enough people that are coming. We'll find out if it either be a potluck or we just say, hey, everybody just bring your own stuff. But if we get enough people coming, we'll probably do a potluck, and we'll probably find a park somewhere and just chill out as a family, right? It'll be the first Saturday. So yeah, it'll be the first Saturday. So we should be straight. So we'll try to find a place where we can all meet together, where we can all love on each other, and we can all, say hello. So July 1st, I'm thinking 2:00-ish. 2:00-ish, because we still got to make sure that we do the babies lessons from 11 to 12. We may have a meeting, SOC meeting. If not, we'll have one the following week. We'll probably just have one on July 8th. Also, to pray, we have some more ministers in training coming down the pipe. So we're excited about that, and we're grateful for that opportunity. And we're excited to move together in that as we continue to grow. I can't even remember how many people we got now. How many ministers we got now? What, 13, 14? Something like that, all over the place. In Cali, we got you in Cali, Texas, Philly, Carolinas, Georgia, Chicago. Praise y'all. Then we got people that aren't part of SOC, but the ministers in Detroit and all over the place too. So we praise y'all. We growing and moving. Praise y'all as we continue to grow and move, and people continue to be able to operate. But we know each other. We love each other. We honor each other, right? This is not a random thing. See, once again, when I'm talking about this, you got to start talking about nation building. We talked about this word people. I didn't even get to people. I talked about a chosen generation. And we got to get ready to take our leave here because Minister Nice is going to give us a word on the podcast at the top of the hour. So I'm going to try and make this work in about 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll do a quick shout out. If you've never been with us on TikTok before doing the shout out, just hang in there. It's pretty nice. We're able to see where people are, and you're also to get more information about what we do at SOC. So if you want to hang tough in there, we're almost finished. Promise you, right? We got to get out of, or we got to take our leave so that Minister Nice will be able to give us a word at 10. And then those who have the babies, we got a little special surprise for you guys. Hopefully everything loads in time. If not, I'll have to try and speak it, but hopefully everything will load in time where you guys can see the video for the babies at our for our Shabbat Beit Sefer, which is led by the Honorable Maya, my wife. Of course, we believe in the Vakakodash of the Holy Spirit, of course. So that being said, remember, we talked about a chosen generation. There are many people, but there are many generations. Remember that word generation has the word gene in it. Even like when people talk about gender, we're talking about jancha. People don't know that. The word jancha, a gender, it means a style. There are genres or genders of music, right? But the A flat is always an A flat. A C major sus is a C major sus. But I can play a C major sus in country. I can play a C major sus in jazz. I can play a C major sus with a mariachi band. I can play a C major sus when I'm dealing with one co. I can play a C major sus when it comes to Afro Cubano, right? I can play a C major sus if I have somebody you putting patois over it, right? At the end of the day, thank you, Tenzo, appreciate you, right? But people keep talking about generation, and you keep saying, well, I'm X generation, I'm Y generation, I'm Z. Generations are talking about family. What family do you identify as? Once again, it's not where you come from, it's who you come from. You are a chosen generation. Then it says you are a what? You are a royal priesthood. If you look up that term, you will discover that they only use one word for you using two. They use one word. You call it royal priesthood. For them, they just use one word. Why is that? Because in our culture, you cannot be a priest without being considered to be royalty. And that means everybody who's royalty must be considered to be a priest. And if Yahweh is the king of kings, and I'm a king underneath him, that means that I'm royalty. That also means that I have to carry myself as a priest. So I'm a chosen generation. Out of all these people, my family, my generation, we're chosen for something, right? And in this family, this generation, we are chosen to be royal priests. It also then next says, I'm a holy nation. The word whole, holy, once again, put a W before that H. That's whole. One, Aleph, Alav, Abba, Father. Be ye holy as I am holy. People all over the place in Texas. The minister over the whole thing in Texas is which is not an enviable position. I was the person until he came in, but he is in I think the Dallas Fort Worth Texas area, but we got people all over Texas. But be ye holy as I'm holy. Be one nation. And if you have more questions about that stuff too, once again, we're going to put that on the shout out. When we finish, all that stuff is going to be on here, right? So just give me a second. We're literally going to start playing the music soon because we got to get ready to, at the top of the hour. I got less than 10 minutes to make sure that we finish, do the shout out, start up the podcast so that Minister Nice can preach a word for us. I'm on? All right. But yeah, so I'm a chosen generation to be royal priest, to then be a holy nation. Holy nation, one nation. See, we miss it because we don't look at the culture. We don't look at the etymology. We don't care about what the words mean. But see, it's not just to be a holy nation. You think, oh, okay, so I'm set apart, this and that. Yeah, you were already set apart when it said you were a chosen generation. Out of everybody, your genealogy, your family is chosen, right? Royal priesthood. You can't be royalty without being a priest. You can't be priest without being royalty. And in this culture, that means that you have to become one nation. Psalm 122. I don't know if it's verse 4, but Psalm 122, somewhere in there, tells you that Yisrael or Israel must become a compact nation, must become one. And then after that, it then declares what? It declares you were a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, and a peculiar people. The word people means nation. That you might show forth the praises of Elohim. The whole our reasoning for what we do as a family is what? That we might show forth the praises of Elohim. Those who are Israelite by birthright, by born right, by bloodline, by being grafted in, by following and keeping the commandments, whatever the case might be, our whole responsibility is to make sure that we show forth the praises of Elohim. Everything that I do should make somebody praise Elohim. And if somebody gets upset because I'm showing forth the praises of Elohim, I shouldn't stop showing forth the praises. I should just realize that they're not part of the culture. If anybody today is listening and says that I have been offensive, that I've gone on my way to offend you, right? You have not seen that I have been doing everything in my power to ensure that I have been as inclusive as possible. The reality is, though, is that some things are not inclusive. I know that you think that everybody should be able to do whatever they want, but evil is evil. I don't vote for the lesser of two evils because evil is evil. And if you don't believe me, just study this stuff that we're talking about. Don't believe it because I said it. Study to show thyself approved. Bring it before Elohim, that you need not be ashamed. You can rightly divide the word of truth. And you won't be ashamed. Why? Because you'll be a workman. You can work it. It's not your job. It's not your toil. This is your work. This is who you are. If we didn't have to go nowhere, I could work this thing. If the battery life could keep up with me, I'd work this thing for 12 hours. Some of y'all seen me do it. right? I'll work the phones after I finish with this. We're going to work the podcast after we finish with this. We're going to work with the children after we finish with this. We're going to work with the ministerial staff as they do what they do today. And all of us have the same Father. If our source is Elohim, is Yahweh Elohim. And Yahashua told us that when we are married unto him, he said, in his Father's house there are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. That being said, we got to do a quick shout out. If you're on TikTok, stick around. If you've never seen how the shout out works, I believe it'll be a blessing to you. For everybody who's on all the platforms, thank you so much for listening in. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi. I'm sorry, excuse me. Let me give honor to the Most High. Thank you again, Yahweh, for everything that you do. That's Abba, Atbar, At Ravak HaKodash. Also, too, we give honor and praise to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice to the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, Yahshua, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom, family. Peace. To those of you who are still with us on TikTok, this is how the shout out works. We're going to do a real quick